If it all goes wrong. Mariners fans, we have been here time and time again. Mariners teams throughout history have come this close to the playoffs only to have it snuffed out in the final days of the season. 90 wins in 2021, 89 in 2018, 86 in 2016, 87 in 2014, and how can we forget the 2 years in a row the Mariners won 93 games in 2002 and 2003 and didn't make the playoffs. It seems to be a foregone conclusion for Mariners fans in Seattle that we have to expect the worst but hope for the best. Drown away in the crowd with tears streaming from our eyes, watching Seager hug his teammates one last time. And with those hugs, you could feel the air being let out of the stadium as the Mariners and their fans knew that the playoffs were not for them this year. As we fast forwarded to 2022, so many different things have happened. Eugenio Suarez now mans third base, Julio Rodriguez is locked up in center field. One of the best pitchers in all of baseball now leads the charge for the Mariners as they vie for their first playoff appearance in over 20 years. And with just a month left of baseball, I'm starting to feel it too. The Mariners themselves are bringing out the best in us as we all hope for the playoffs one time. But what happens then if it all goes wrong? Now, admittedly, this is not my idea. Here are two articles that were done by Lookout Landing by Amanda Lane and Zach Gottschalk over on lookoutlanding.com. One titled If It All Goes Right and one titled If It All Goes Wrong. So today we're going to look at if it all goes wrong, what happens, and exactly how we're going to have to deal with that. Tomorrow, Joe will take over the If It All Goes Right. Now, the pessimist in all of us Mariners fans just goes to show how we are all truly masochists as we almost come to enjoy the pain and letdown that we have every single season when the Mariners miss the playoffs by one game. And for the Mariners in the wild card hunt, it never feels like enough. 2022 added the third wildcard spot for the MLB playoffs, meaning that 6 teams go from either league, of course increasing the chance that the Mariners will finally break their playoff drought. However, with just how closely contested the playoffs and wildcard have been for the Mariners lately, nothing quite gives you the courage to say yes, the Mariners are making the playoffs. And to start it all with it all going wrong will be a Ty France injury, one that he cannot overcome this time. France, with his wrist really ailing him, lets the team down as he goes into the latter parts of the season, and eventually we just know that he's going to need surgery on that wrist. And while he tries to play through it, we all know that this is not the Ty France that we all have come to know and love. He started to look good right at the end of August, like he was finally feeling comfortable, and then that wrist flared up on him one more time towards the end of September, and the Mariners lost their all-star first baseman. With an innings limit creeping up on star standout rookie starter George Kirby, you can all but guarantee that he needs to get some short starts in before we get into the playoffs and possibly further. Kirby, however, not used to going such short stints, is really struggling to find his command now, and a pitcher who never used to walk anybody is now letting runners on base for free every at-bat. And speaking of starting pitchers, the best pitcher in the game right now, Luis Castillo, he just came off the field holding his arm. Yeah, and as it turns out in the end, Tommy John surgery, out for the rest of 2022 and out for the rest of 2023, the entirety of the contract the Mariners have him for. It's all going wrong. Julio, after signing a massive contract, begins to start to scuffle at the plate, and then once again, here come the Mariners' fears that they just wasted a ton of money on what they thought was going to be an all-star talent. Towards the end of this year, he starts to look like he really isn't going to be hitting any of those marks for those MVPs, and Julio gets hurt. And the Mariners call up former top prospect Jarred Kelenic, hoping that he can right the ship and lead the Mariners into the playoffs one final time. But it looks like Kelenic has not learned enough in his time down at AAA, as he is not swinging at the right pitches, and every curveball leaves him befuddled at the plate for another swinging strikeout. And, as it always seems to for the Seattle Mariners, it comes down to the final series. The Mariners enter the final game of the season tied for third place in the American League wildcard with the Tampa Bay Rays. Robbie Ray is on the mound against the Detroit Tigers, and a closely fought battle unfortunately comes out with a loss for the Seattle Mariners. Losing the final game of the season is nothing new to the Mariners, but this one especially hurts, because even though the Rays lost, meaning that they had the exact same record at the end of the year, the Rays had taken the season series from the Mariners, therefore they get the wild card spot instead of Seattle. A story as old as time. The Seattle Mariners missed the playoffs by that much.
The magic carpet ride of a 2021 season comes to a final close, but the Mariners were oh so close to getting to the playoffs for the first time in 19 seasons.
It truly did all go wrong for Seattle in 2022, but what if that wasn't the case? What if for the Seattle Mariners in 2022, it all goes right? If you're looking for a little bit of serotonin, go ahead and click on this video on the screen now. I can't wait to see where the rest of the season takes us, and go Mariners.